Sundar ki jai. Okay, so chant Jai Radha Madhava. Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare
Please
Krishna. Good evening. It's good afternoon, 4 o'clock. Where are you? You're in Mayapur, no?
I'm in Kolkata, Maharaj.
Oh, Kolkata. Okay. On Albert Road?
Maharaj, I live in this Gita Bhavan, Bhaktivedanta Research Center, BRC.
Oh, okay. Yeah. With all the old books.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Preservative spray. Yeah. Wow. Very nice project. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari.
Gopi Janabalaba Girivaradari.
Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari.
Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana.
Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana.
Yamuna Tira Vana Chari.
Munatira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vana Chari.
Yamunatira Vanachari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari.
Gopi Janabahalava Girivaradari.
Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari.
Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana.
Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana.
Yamunatira Vana Chari.
Yamunatira Vanachari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari.
Shri Radha Madhava Astasaki ki jai.
Jai.
Chaitanya Chandradaya Mandir ki jai. Narayanam namaskrityam
Narayanam namaskrityam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Tato Jayamudiraye.
Tato Jaya Mudiraye.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we're continuing with our, what do you say? The way we're using for application. We're continuing with our application of Srimad Bhagavatam, which we can announce is our very means of conquest. You know, Krishna is conquered by the love of somebody who has conquered his own senses. You know? And of course, we're on the 9th canto. Okay. And today's chapter is maybe has a distinction. I think it probably is, you know, the shortest chapter in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. Where did it go here? Well, I think looks like I lost it. Okay, I have to open it again. Okay, there we go. Open. Microsoft Word. Okay, recent. There it is. Okay. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Purana, Canto 9, Liberation, Chapter 12. Okay. The dynasty of Kusha, the son of Lord Ramachandra. Okay. Yeah. So from broader ethos, as we understand, not reading from Prabhupada directly, but looking at other resources, Lava and Kush grew up very well under the tutelage of Valmiki Muni. And Lord Ram, meantime, for 12,000 years, was engaged in uninterrupted Agnihotra, you know, remembering Mother Sita's qualities in Ayodhya. And then these two very, very nice young brahmacharis, as you see in India, traveling here and there, little boys, you know, singing. You have maybe Gandhina and something very ektar, and traveling someplace and just chanting the Ramayana or other things like that. You know, Prabhupada was describing that in every house, you know, bigger household, maybe 20, 25 people living in the whole household, big compound, you know, very nice cultural arrangement, vastu arrangement. And then there were reciters, and they would just, at all 24 hours a day, they would be, you know, employed just to recite, you know, the Puranas, the Mahabharata, Ramayana, Bhagavatam. And so Prabhupada says that any time during the night when you woke up, you'd hear them chanting, you know, very nicely, singing the Ramayana like that, you know. You know. And he said they were not charging much, you know, they get their maintenance, be a part of the household, you know, collect something. So Lava and Kush came to Ayodhya, and everybody was very enchanted by their purity, their beauty. And so then I think that was the first time that they chanted Ramayana like that. Yeah. And of course, they were equally powerful as Rama himself. You see how our views going here. Okay. So, the dynasty of Kush, the son of Lord Ramachandra. Translation text number 1, Sukadeva Goswami said, the son of Ramachandra was Kusha, the son of Kusha was Atiti, the son of Atiti was Nishuddha, the son of Nishuddha was Nabha, the son of Nabha was Pundarik, Pundarik's son was Kshemadhanva. And of course, this is all starting in the Treta Yuga, when people were living to be 100, 1,000, 10,000 years old. You know, so the sons and the dynasties, when do they get sons? At what age? In the Bible, it's describing, we're talking about Methuselah, again, who lived to be, I think it was 1,200 years old or something. But in the same paragraph, it describes many other people who are also living to be 900, 800, 875, 975, 1,000, so and so, you know. And it was describing they were getting children when they were much older, maybe like 800. You know, if he lived to be 1,200, he would have children at, you know, at 1,000 or something years. You know. So these oral traditions are very interesting. The scientists, you know, the scientific mentality. Of course, right away, even on that point, there can be a challenge of what is science. Um, I saw one text one time, and I thought it was by Sir Peter Medawar, who was Nobel laureate, but he spelled it with the original English spelling, which was instead of SC, it was with a C, CINCE. Yeah. We say conscience, you know, yeah, nescience. So the word means literally to know. So all it means is that I am a scientist. You know, I'm a knowerist. Okay, so pretty much in some ways self-declared jnanis, but Prabhupada talking about empiric philosophers, empirical speculation, jnana, mental speculation, arithmetic, mathematics, uh, based upon sense perception. Empirical knowledge, of course, means sense perception. So the epistemology of science is sometimes described as rational empiricism. Rational empiricism. Direct perception. I perceive that one gulab jamun is nice. Okay. I perceive that two gulab jamuns is better. Yeah. Therefore, three gulab jamun must be really good, and therefore, you know, 50 gulab jamuns must be really good. Okay. So this is uh, empirical speculation, you know, based upon empirical knowledge, which, of course, in the introduction to the Prabhupada included in the introduction to the Upanishad, his lecture on the Vedas, which discuss what is knowledge. And as I understand, that's, you know, an extract or a summary of Jiva Goswami's was it Tattva Sandarbha? No, the first Sandarbha, which deals with what is knowledge. He describes like 6 principles, which can be boiled down into direct perception, pratyaksha, mental speculation, anumana. And anumana can be avaroha panta, viroha panta, yeah, ascending and descending, or inductive and deductive. Okay, thank you. Aroha panta. Yeah, thank you. Ascending or descending knowledge. In the West, inductive or deductive knowledge. You know, so when I was at the University of California, for one of our in Berkeley, one of the oldest buildings there was the Hearst mining mining engineering building, because it was founded by William Randolph Hearst, who's a very famous, you know, extremely rich, powerful Vaishya. And in there on the wall, there was a very tall, you know, 10-foot tall mural painting on the wall, you know, from the very beginning. And the scene was like in some Arctic waters with icebergs, you know, floating around. And then there was like a ship, you know, not too big, you know, good size, broken in half. And one half was going this way, another half was going another way. There were the ship's crew had left the ship, and they were floating around little icebergs. And other ships of the same kind as the one that broken in half were there to rescue them. Okay. So the story was that during World War II, the United States wanted to ship war supplies to Russia, our great allies. And of course, the easiest way to do it was to bring them by train or something to Alaska and load them, sort them, and ship them across the Bering Straits, which is very narrow, to maybe to Murmansk. I don't know. So they wanted to do mass production of some kind of simple, practical cargo ship. And they tried different metals, you know, to use for the hulls, metallurgy. And they had a certain alloy, which they had the materials for, they could manufacture quickly. And they ran tests on it. One, I think, is called shear strength. Ductile strength is when you just separate it, stretch it like a bar until it kind of stretches out like very thin and pops. Okay, that's the ductile strength. The shear strength is how you push it sideways. The whole depends on the packing structure of the atoms in the metal. So they ran these tests at maybe like 5-degree intervals, and yeah, the thing had a very nice curve. It was very strong within the temperatures it was supposed to operate. Built the ships, went off there. They're going across the ocean and it's bouncing up and down sometimes, and they start seeing cracks developing in the ships, and the cracks get worse until finally the captain gets everybody else off, and they watch the whole ship just break right in half. So they went back to their testing levels, and they discovered that instead of testing at 5-degree intervals, they tested at something like 2-degree intervals, and they discovered that the shear strength decreased, and suddenly at like maybe just 5 degrees below freezing or 20 degrees below freezing, there was like a 1.5-degree range, during which the shear strength dropped down like 100 times, became brittle. So this is an example, very clear example, on the walls of one of the biggest engineering colleges in the world, that mental speculation has its problems. You may speculate that one globulin is good, therefore two will be better. You may speculate that the strength will hold like this and that, but it shows that this is not always the case. Mental speculation automatically doesn't include so many spaces, so much extension. And Prabhupada was, of course, fighting so furiously against this, against science. Not all scientists, he says, science has done many wonderful things. But as we're saying, Prabhupada was opposed to the rascal scientists, the Maya Paritagyanas, and had very strong feelings about what they're doing. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj says, I offer my obeisances to Lord Chaitanya, by whose mercy even an uneducated child can cross over the ocean of the omniscience and arrive at the absolute truth. And that ocean is filled with the various ocean-going crocodiles. And these ocean-going crocodiles are 15 feet long, very gigantic monsters. So if you're out there in your little boat, like first time you're trying to cross the ocean of nescience, then they make things more difficult. There are various great aquatics, like Anishwara, Kapila, Jaimini, and other atheists, who swallow up entire empires, entire generations, multi-generations are swallowed up by these people. Like we gave the example of the ordinary people, just swallowed up by this Kannada's Paramanuvad, that everything is produced from atoms and molecules. And this goes to Greece as Democritus, and it goes to the West. And then I don't know who introduced the atomic theory in the West, but it caught on. Very popular idea. So they destroying great empires. So this speculative method, then what is the origin of life? We find the bones of Lucy. We apply the carbon dating, which if you look at the Britannica, which is accepted among scholars, I've paid for subscription for $50 and used it many times, to make the bridge between Bhagavad Gita and poetry. Okay. So he took the article on poetry, and it was a very interesting article, very nice. You could relate it very easily to Krishna consciousness and what is poetry. So the Encyclopedia Britannica considered more authoritative than the Wikipedia. So if you look at the article on carbon dating, right away you'll see that they're admitting, they pass by it very quickly, but they're admitting that there are certain problems with this, and you see what actually carbon dating is. And it's a whole separate topic which we could discuss, but there are problems, even with their thing of being able to take, old trees and different things like that, and look at the amount of carbon-14, and they say, this is so old, So they take the carbon-14 analysis in my body and somebody else's body. They take the carbon-14 analysis in Shakespeare's bones. Okay, we know how long he lived. They take the carbon-14 analysis and when Mount Vesuvius blew up. But Prabhupada says, past 2,000 years, they're really speculating. And when I was investigating Vastu for preaching purposes, okay, it really became obvious. Yeah, you could see that everybody was just exactly what Prabhupada said. Everybody was agreeing that there were probably 5 major treatises on what is Vastu, Pancha Siddhantika, but only 2 of those were remaining. One was by Mayapur Prakash or something like that. And the other one was the Vishvakarma Samhita, something like that. But they speculated there must have been this, there must have been that. The Mayapur Prakash was how to build gambling casinos, luxury hotels, and enjoy life. The Dhanvantari, Samhita, whatever it was how to build, adopt Vastu for self-realization, for purification, for austerity, for Krishna, But everybody, and also the same way with Bharata Muni, who's the authority in Gandharva Veda. I think they put him about 5th century BC or something, And also Anishwara Kapila, the atheistic Kapila, his greatest disciple, our research, was Ishwara Krishnadas. That's the name of the atheistic Kapila's most famous disciple. Acharya is Ishwara Krishnadas. And there's only one book, really, maybe done in the 1970s. I got a copy, which is accepted as like a modern summary of the culture, the philosophy, how the book is coming down. And it was by, I think, somebody from the University of Seattle. It's like a very nice, sober, professor. So they put him maybe like 1st, 2nd century before Christ, same time as Buddha. But exactly what Prabhupada was saying, then somebody else coming along, and apparently, in the 5th century after Christ, writing a book, coming down like that, but not much traditions. So why we're going all into this? Our justification is oral tradition. That somebody was the son of somebody, somebody was the son of somebody, okay, and the son of Balastala was Vajranabha, okay, Thunderbolt Naval, who was said to have been born from the effulgence of the sun god. So these are coming down, Sukadeva Goswami, in such incredible poetry, such incredible logic, such incredible, what's the word, grammar, Again, our friend, Dr. Samaresh Bandyopadhyaya, former head of the University of Calcutta, Department of Ancient Indian History and Culture, he was studying Sanskrit at like, 6 years old or something, professors all over the world contact him asking for details in the Sanskrit. So when we met him, he was, part of the, what's it called? In Calcutta, what do they call these high-class guys? Mandalapati? No, what do they call it? Some phrase they were. Huh?
Is that Bhadra Loka, Maharaj?
Yeah, the Bhadralok, sir. He is part of Bhadralok, sir. So he Dr. Samaresh Bandyopadhyaya, and very nice, distinguished family. His wife Nandini was in charge of the All India Ladies Relief Society, and they live out in Lake Town, Block A. So very nice cultured person. I met him when I was there with working with the Bhaktivedanta Institute. I was just, I was taking public buses. There was no money in 1984. That was tough. So he approached me on the bus. You go out and just go out in the Dodi and Kurta or Sari, and somebody will approach you. I mean, it's just a fact, Repeated experiences. It's just only preaching technique you need is just to go out dressed like a devotee, looking like a devotee, So he approached me in the bus. Oh, you're reading Sanskrit. You're a foreigner, So we developed a very lifelong friendship, Then he was helping us with the organizing this World Congress on the Synthesis of Science and Religion, which included Nobel laureates, And then when Bhakti Swarup Damodaramars came, then he met him and they discussed everything. And Maharaj was staunch. He would like defend like parampara and these kind of things. And Dr. Samaresh was, okay, these kinds of knowledge exist. I'm not denying that. And they're very, real in some ways. He was describing some of his mystical experiences as a child and even recently. Uh, but he was very much convinced. But yeah, really, the way to know is science, rational empiricism. You know. So we went on like this, and at some point, Dr. Bhaktivedanta told me he said, sing, Dr. Totem, sing. Yeah, you were in Calcutta University, weren't you? And he said, yes, doctor. And he said, what year were you? What college were you in? Because there's several colleges. And they started talking, and it turned out that they used to play soccer. They used to play football together when they were undergraduates. And he was saying, "Oh, so you're the Rocket Manipuri?" And he said, "Oh, you're so so." So Christian's arrangement. And after that, the whole thing changed in terms of their relationship, and it was like Gopinath Acharya and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So Krishna's arranging this preaching. It goes on this level. So many people become influenced. So when I first met him, he was of this Bhadralok's opinion that the Chaitanya Sampradaya were all tikkiwalas. They have there's a little tikki sticker there, and they had so many bad habits in their past, in their tradition, so many abominable things. So the devotees, with the Oxford Center for Hindu Studies, and they've all gone on to big studies. They're very highly respected now. There was the Congress during Prabhupada's 50th anniversary of ISKCON. They organized a program, Nutama, Radhika, everybody, in Harvard on a scholastic review of the 50 years of ISKCON. And they had very, very prominent, they had all, basically say maybe 90% of the prominent Gaudiya Vaishnava scholars in the world reviewing how we've done as an academic movement, as a scholarly movement, as pundits. Okay, you distributed so many books, you cooked so much food, okay, uh, um, and the conclusion was, after talking about it amongst themselves, reviewing, delivering their very learned papers and so on, was that yes, that considering the resources that Prabhupada had to deal with and what you've dealt with after Prabhupada left, you've actually done quite well. Maybe like, A minus or B plus score, done quite well. And actually, practically speaking, is what you're doing in the work. We want to be polite with you because we want to be invited to more of these congresses. Garuda Das was put in charge of having the results published, but somehow or other, it has not been published, and it would be a fantastic book, for ISKCON. Of course, Radhika and Krishna Kshetra have done modern thinking on the Bhagavatam, and they asked him at the same time, can you do a summary of the Bhagavatam, an extract, because there's nothing really available academically. And of course, this is like, well, yeah, we can do that. Kind of, we might find time to do that. So it's available. I maybe have it on my bookshelf. And what they did, they went through all 12 cantos and did a summary, and they extracted, certain highlights along the way. And it will probably, I think I can't remember which, not Rutgers, I can't remember which one it is, Princeton. It's one of the big major publishing houses, academic publishing houses. So it's probably going to be the academic standard for graduate studies in the Bhagavatam, until books cease to exist or something. So it's an accomplishment in one lifetime. It's worth everything. They said when they did it, he told me they had a fear that when they were translating the Bhagavatam academic standard, they'd have to actually deny or criticize Prabhupada's theological translations. They're afraid of this. Oh my God. But he said when they actually began to investigate it, looking at it from this academic standard, like Dr. Samaresh, scientists, the first thing they discovered was that Prabhupada was simply presenting what the previous Charyas said when they translated a word. It wasn't he was inventing it himself. Okay. So maybe our Acharyas are just fanatics. Then when they would go to the Amarakosh, the Nirukti, to the actual, accepted dictionaries, their surprise was that the monotheistic translation, Hari means God, Vishnu doesn't mean thief, was the primary translation. And the secondary translation, which the Mayavadis would use and people like that, was actually secondary or tertiary. So that the general humor of the Vedas as we're presenting is clearly, that Ishvara Parama Krishna, well, Ishvara Parama Narayan, Vishnu, is the ultimate thing like that. Another problem was they didn't want to touch the 10th canto too much. But then all the professors and stuff were saying, no, that's the essence. If you're going to have an extract, you got to do it. So they did it. Okay. Then to write the foreword, they have one, very respected academic scholar. He says there's two tiers. The highest tier in Indology, you can only get into it by being invited by somebody in the club, And himself, Garuda, others, Advaita, not in that club. But you're in the second level, okay, and there's more dependent upon what you've done, like that. So they invited one of these people. They know him, very nice person, to write the foreword to the book, And before they've been kind of like dancing around the fact that whenever a book would come out, somebody like Wendy Boninger or something would just say, "They're Hare Krishnas, they're Hare Krishnas, they're Hare Krishnas," like pointing out, which makes you, of course, incompetent to talk about Gaudiya Vaishnavism. If you're a physicist and you say, "I'm a physicist, but I've never been in a laboratory. I've never gone in a laboratory," you understand, like that. People think you're mad, But if you're a theologian and you say, "But I'm an atheist. I have no religion. I have no religion," He says the Muslims have been so forceful that, okay, that it's kind of like being a Muslim and being a Muslim scholar is accepted. So they were kind of skirting around this, but in the foreword to that book, the summary of the Bhagavatam, the person came right out in a very polite way, and he said, of course, Kenneth and Ravi are actually very, regular participants, respected participants in this tradition coming down, Bhagavatam tradition coming down through ISKCON and A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. And they couldn't ask him to change it. They couldn't reject it because it was there. At that point, they decided, okay, we're going to come out of the closet and just present ourselves as he has presented us, and so on. So, and it no problem. Nobody ever, and after that, the lady who was criticizing them couldn't say anything because they were, and everybody else, okay, that's their position, So this is all epistemology. So Dr. Samaresh, going back to him, he in the beginning thought that, ISKCON was a bunch of, Sahaji occult people. And looking at historically, yes, we have had very bad deviations, looking at our history. How do you say this, 1 second here. Okay, yeah, there we are. I'm still there. Okay. Yeah. Looking historically at what we've done, what we've accomplished and everything else, we all know that there's Saki Beki, because it says that one should imitate the gopis. So this guy would dress his sannyasis up in saris and all his feminine makeup, and they would go around like dancing like this and that. Even the videos of them, films of them, Saki Beki, one deviation. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the Light of the Bhagavat, one place there's maybe about 15 different Upa Sampradayas coming out of our tradition like that, Then other ones that Prabhupada also mentions. Light of the Bhagavat, I think, is more broad than just our tradition, Pasupati Shaivas, he goes like that. But within our tradition. And one time I was there in Radhadesh, talking about Jung and the members of this organization. I forget what it's called, but it meets about every 2-3 years. What's his name? Shonak Rishis organized it, from the Oxford Center with different topics. And so I was presenting on what I discovered about Jung. I work on Carl Jung. But one devotee was presenting about the Upa Sampradayas in our tradition. And one of them, extreme, was that any disciple on the night of marriage his wife, his new bride, would have to spend the first night with the guru, because then she would become Mahaprasad. Woof, yeah. Okay. Now I mentioned that, which may have scandalized some of the ladies, but we're all Bhaktivedantas here as scholars. Sorry, But other things they mentioned, I won't even mention. I think almost even the ladies had to cover their ears about how bad. And these are acharyas with thousands of disciples, maybe extending over several generations. And so we have to understand this. We have definitely skeletons and deviations in our closet. And very practically speaking, how are we dealing with these now? Have some deviations actually entered into our sampradaya already, which are going to be passed down, and they haven't been rooted out? Maya will always be attacking, and we have to always be fighting. Every generation, every moment, Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So Dr. Samaresh was very common, Calcutta person. This was 1984. And that was still their opinion of ISKCON, the Hare Krishna movement, a bunch of reformed hippies. And I don't know what it may have changed to some degree now, but even recently I see that the Bagh Bazaar Gaudiya Math was able to get Modi to come to their, the 500th anniversary of Lord Chaitanya's sannyas or something. And ISKCON had a bigger program, but it didn't include these people at that level in the organization. I was seeing preaching in India. But then after associating together with myself, Swarup Damodar Maharaj, I heard him on the telephone talking to one of his friends, and he said, I used to think that the Bhagavatam was for only lower class people, unintelligent people, women, laborers, But after inferior Sanskrit, but he said after studying it in association with these Hare Krishna people, I'm beginning to appreciate that the Sanskrit of the Bhagavatam is not inferior, that my Sanskrit is inferior. He said it's so far, the Sanskrit I'm beginning to realize is so far above my level that I was thinking that it was, was low class. So this are examples of how our preaching and everything else is carried on. And then the scientific point of view tries to establish everything. You've got to see something, and usually seeing, very clear amongst the hierarchy of the five senses, the five more means of direct perception. Visual perception is highly emphasized. If you go to a university database, online database for the books they have, put in visual perception, and they may come back and say, okay, we have 1,000 books, on visual perception. When you say acoustical perception, it will come back with about 1/10 that number. Library of Congress catalog number BF 435. I think it's what it is. BF 435. It's very interesting. When we're traveling sometime, we'll go to a library and they put that in. No, BF 469, I think is what it was. Yeah, something like that. What it is acoustical perception. And you come back with just very interesting books talking about acoustical perception, what it really is scientifically. Of course, this is the boundary where we can go between rational, empirical science into psychology, thinking, Sound is right on the border between the mind and the gross senses. And so we come up with very, very challenging things to the physicists, to the people who are dedicated to seeing everything. Seeing is believing. So rational empiricism, mostly based upon what they see, and then rational thought. Okay, that means, of course, mathematics. Prabhupada says that physics is the king of sciences, and mathematics is the queen. And what is science is also a debated area. What is logic is a debated area. What is mathematics? The Britannica says nobody comes up with a clear, a definition of what is mathematics. Is symbolic logic a part of mathematics or not? Boolean algebra. Okay, so it's an area where we can go ahead like that. And every salesman has their own technique. Everybody has to develop their own way of preaching. So now we're coming back again after all this. I'm remembering how we got into this. oral tradition. And of course, we get that. Why do you say this is that way? Well, because we heard it from this person who heard it from that person. Poo and poo poo. Yeah. We're dealing with hard facts. Yeah. Yeah. The fact means that which is made, as in manufacture, that which is made by hand. Okay, you're dealing in facts, things you create. Okay. So I remember that one anthropologist, he said it maybe back in the 1960s or something. He said he was in Ceylon, and he said I think it was he said every 14 years or something. 5 years. It was some time like that, at least five, maybe it was more than five, maybe like 10, 8, 14. All of the Buddhists in Sri Lanka, Ceylon, which is considered one of the major, traditions in Buddhism, said they would all get together, maybe like 10,000 Buddhist monks, and they would then chant, together with the Diamond Sutra, different sutras like that. And he said he was listening to it, and it was just impressive because they were trained to do this in smaller groups, bigger groups. And so finally, when they got together, it's every 7 years with 10,000 monks chanting the Diamond Sutra and stuff. Of course, so many people would listen to it broadcast. He said it was just very impressive, but just the whole atmosphere was vibrating, and they would fall into a very tight rhythm like that, and you could hear the pronunciation. So he said at that point, he realized that the possibilities of 10,000 monks making the same mistake at the same time was something far less than zero, you know. Yeah. Whereas if one publisher, I've seen this happen, you know, uh, if you hear a devotee chanting in the Sringa prayers, I don't know if anybody's from Latin tradition here, they'll go Praladha Dayane. And as far as they can trace it back, there was one songbook which was published with this double dada. So you can figure out right away, oh, this is a Spanish-speaking devotee. Pralad halada dayane. Okay, Pralad halada dayane. So there's an example of a literary tradition where one mistake was made in the canonical text, and it was immediately passed down to everybody. You know? Whereas he's saying in these oral traditions, they have their own method of maintaining purity. There's a whole area of epistemology. How do we know? Tattva Gyan. So it's being passed down in verbal form. It's being passed down in written form. And then Hridayananda Maharaj, he's describing that when Vyasadeva finally receives his instructions from Narada Muni, 4, 5, 6 in the first canto, he says, okay, he accepts it. Now he sat down in a cottage at Samprashna. He began to meditate and contemplate the pastimes of the Lord, probably by hearing and chanting, meditating on it. And he could see everything. Then very essential verse, it says, then he could see the Lord and his energies and Maya, which was completely under control, like that. And then Sutta Goswami then says, yataditam yatamati. That's what it is, right? Yataditam yatamati. Is that correct? So Hridayananda Maharaj says, Sutta Goswami then says to the sages that I heard this, Vyasadeva spoke it to Sukadeva Goswami, and then he spoke it to Maharaj Pariksit. So I was there and I heard it, yataditam yatamati. And he translates it as, and I shall now try to make you understand it as I understood it. So the Puranas are not concerned with giving this, exact pronunciation, which we see in Sri Lanka or South India, which is still there. They learn the text forward. They learn the text backward. They learn and chant every alternate syllable and things like that. And in computer science, this is also how you're checking how the data you're getting. There are checks to see if the data you're getting is actually the same as the data which was sent. So the same systems are used in computer data checks and used in the and it probably mentions it, of course, in the first beginning of the Bhagavatam, that this is one way to be expert, to chant the mantras properly, exactly. But the Puranas aren't concerned with that. The Puranas are concerned with communicating a bhava, a perspective, an attitude. And once you got that attitude, that perspective, okay, then the message is across. So if the teacher sees a bewildered look on the student's face, he'll go back over, ask some questions. He'll go over it, give other examples until finally the student goes, aha, you mean, yes, yes, okay, you've got it. So the whole purpose of our literature is to communicate, just to change people's buddhi, intelligence, perspective, heart, attitude. And it's not to learn things as literal facts, you know? But part of that is passing it down in a very accurate tradition, you know. And so we see here, text number 2, all these things. This chapter is probably the shortest chapter. It's all nothing but mostly what do you call it? Um, uh, genealogies. Yeah. And we can check back the Bhagavatam. The same genealogies will be there. The same commentary. That Vajranabha, who is said, you notice he's qualifying it. In Prabhupada's books, there's a description of the samadhi, the funeral place of Jesus Christ. It's a local tradition somewhere in Afghanistan or something like that, maintained by Muslims, that this is where Jesus finally left his body along with Mother Mary, and the tombs are there. And in the purport in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada says this is venerated by local people this way and that way. And Prabhupada doesn't say that it is the tomb of Jesus Christ, but this level, he's putting it in there, he's repeating it, he's commenting, and so then we can understand, I would say, heuristics, interpreting the scriptures, that Prabhupada is saying there's a lot of good reasons to take this as a hypothesis. Maybe we'll find in some authoritative something else, some other place like that. So in Prabhupada's books, it says, I would say when Prabhupada said, was quoting here from the Sanskrit, the commentaries, who is said to have been born of the effulgence of the sun god, I was saying it falls a little bit less than a direct statement. Okay, this is heuristics, how to interpret holy scriptures. GBC is maintaining a committee to try and figure out how to interpret Prabhupada's books. It's another thing we can talk about. How much can we change them in terms of time, place, and circumstance? Text 3 and 4. The son of Vajranabha was Saghana. His son was Vidriti. The son of Vidriti was Hiranyanabha. So we have Vajranabha, we have thunder belly button, and golden belly button. So why is this? Because the Nabha is considered the source of prana, and that's what a king should be. Who became a disciple of Jaimini and became a great acharya of mystic yoga. It is from Hiranyanaба that the great saint Yajnavalkya, who's one of the leaders, one of the authorities in Dharma Shastras, learned the highly elevated system of mystic yoga known as Adhyatma Yoga, which can loosen the knots of a material attachment in the heart. Text 5. Okay. His son was Meru, text 6. Having achieved perfection in the power of mystic yoga, Maru still lives in a place known as Kalpata Gram. At the end of the Kali Yuga, he will revive the Surya dynasty by begetting a son. So that's also mentioned in previous incarnations, isn't it? Earlier, at the end of Kali Yuga, yeah. Purport. This is the only purport of the entire text, entire chapter. At least 5,000 years ago, Srila Sukadeva Goswami ascertained the existence of Maru in Kalapa Gram. It said that Maru, having achieved a yoga siddhi body, would continue to exist until the end of Kali Yuga, which is calculated to continue for 432,000 years. So if you divide that by 108, you get 4,000. So 4,000 times 108 is the duration. Of course, it's okay. Kali Yuga is then twice that is Dwapara Yuga, 3 times Treta, and 4 times Satya. So 4, 3, 2, 1 is 10. So one Divya Yuga, the 4 cycles, is 4,322,000, like that. And 108 is 1 to the power of 1 times 2 to the power of 2 times 3 to the power of 3, which you should be able to make into different very beautiful yantras like that of different dimensions like that. Yeah. It's a very ubiquitous number. I saw one article on the Wikipedia on 108, and the person was quite justifiably saying that nobody can say why it is important. They can describe where it is quoted so many times, how it was quoted in Icelandic texts, how Ronald Reagan used the number, the Vedas many times. But he said no one has ever seen anybody wanted to know why is this such an important number, you know. And also from Prabhupada, so maybe somebody has a reason why it's an important number like that. Okay, so many things to learn. Such is the perfection of mystic power. By controlling the breathing, the perfect yogi can continue his life for as long as he likes. Okay. So the only pranayama, I mean, Prabhupada saw people doing hatha yoga one time, I think on a morning walk in Los Angeles. And he said, this is very good if you can do it, if you have time to do it, you know. But he said, but I'm not emphasizing this. He said, because I don't want people to be confused, you know, and think that you have to do these things. He's saying it's not important, you know. And it's good, but you really, if you just chant and dance, for every single process in the mystic yoga system, there's a corresponding process in the bhakti yoga system, Prabhupada says. So if we're singing and dancing, Haribo, Haribo, and clapping our hands, you know, this even as a force, just force yourself to do it. Again, in Calcutta, it was so hot that one summer. One person had been there 32 years in Calcutta, and he told me it was the hottest summer he'd ever experienced. It was my first summer in India. We were out there in Raghunathpur, where it's on VIP Road, you know, the Bhaktivedanta flat the Mars bought there. There were no windows put in. The place was still under construction. He dropped me off there with one 85-year-old Manipuri sailor. I was there alone. No, you know, for one entire year. You know, I almost died several times. You know, maybe at least 2 times almost died. You know, got killed there. But boy, I experienced India. So it was the hottest summer in 32 years. There was no money. I couldn't take taxis everywhere. Of course, they weren't even air conditioned. So I had to ride on a Calcutta bus. Now, Maharaj can, if you grab your wrist like this and squeeze as hard as you can, that's what it's like standing up on a Calcutta bus. Maybe Maharaj can confirm it's not confirmed.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. And of course, you're perspiring like anything, which is very good for your skin, by the way, you know. And the person next to you may have fallen asleep while he's standing up. So compressed. Then way in the back of the bus, if you hear everybody groaning, you look up and some fat man is getting on, and you can feel it in the back of the bus. So I'm living through all this, and incredible, you know. But this, when I tested our bhakti yoga, get up. Prabhupada says in this movement we require everyone to arise by 4 o'clock in the morning. It's Upadeshamrita. In this movement we require everyone to rise by 4 o'clock in the morning, attend Mangala Artik or morning program, perform kirtan, read Srimad Bhagavatam, etc. I mentioned that before, but it's very essential, very essential. Prabhupada emphasizing in many places. Brahmana Trivikram Swami told me that about how Prabhupada was very strict about, you know, during the Brahma Muhurta, everybody has to be up, has to be engaged in hearing and chanting. He said until 10 o'clock in the morning. Wikipedia has a page on Muhurtas. It gives the list of the names. It gives some information about them. After the Brahma Muhurta is the, who knows what is after the Brahma Muhurta, the name of the next Muhurta. Unmute your microphone. Okay, you're going to learn at least one thing today. Samudra. It's very nice. And it says if they're considered auspicious or inauspicious. So the Brahma Muhurta is the only one, I think, which is considered very auspicious. And after that, the Samudra is auspicious. Then it goes along, and some of them get inauspicious, and then some very inauspicious. Of course, the ones, at night, and you can see everything becomes, the bar is open, the business is closed, the mode of passion is finished at 6 o'clock, the bar is open, they have their happy hour, and things become more and more crazy until 2 o'clock in the morning, and then the mode of goodness starts, so 666, goodness, passion, ignorance. So getting up very early. So I was just doing this, and even other people, that's the one criticism I had of the Bhaktivedanta Institute, is that they were very intelligent, generally speaking, but sometimes they weren't following these like sadhana. But one purport, I opened the book when I was thinking like this, and Prabhupada said, one should not criticize other people's religious principles. It will only make one's mind agitated. Focus on keeping yours. Okay, it was like Prabhupada directly talking to me. Okay, everybody has their own combination of putting together sadhana bhakti. But I was considering my perspective that it should have been more, strictly Brahma Muhurta observance. But sometimes I was the only person there. I had minor Shringadev deity. He became the our Raghunath poor deity, second, third floor. And I got of course, in Calcutta, you can get an altar. It's very cheap. That's a nice thing. You can just, anybody, brahmachari can afford a nice altar. So Lord Nrsingadev was there. Maybe I can show him, our friend for so long. And he also was hot. I was looking at it. He also looked like he was like, suffering from the heat. The street dogs were complaining. And here I was testing bhakti yoga. I was, I started putting on weight maybe a few years ago when I entered into Jupiter, Brihaspati, and I'm trying to lose it, but I'm not eating anymore. But okay, this is people respect me more, and I became a little more robust. So this is all, Jupiter, Brihaspati. Okay, it works. So I was down maybe 10 kilos or something less than I am now, skinny, and this, because you couldn't eat anything, your body could not handle it. If you drank alcohol in a situation, you go completely mad. The sweets were enough to make you, forget your problems. So, but I was there. Lord Nrsingadev, he was always there. I was there, and I would put my hands over my head, and I would move back and forth like a bear, just doing it, singing and dancing. Samsara Dhamma. Yeah, and I could see the result. If I did that, I could see how my prana was acting. I could see that if I pushed a little bit too far to one side, I would have fallen on the floor. And I really saw how to, use my body, from deep down like that, So many austerities. So the same thing is, we realize all these things you realize in mystic yoga if you follow it. Yeah, mystic yoga in a female body, mystic yoga in an Indian body, mystic yoga in an American body, yeah. We really begin to understand that we're not the sense objects. A dog may become absorbed in the sense objects to the point of having his senses, damaged. Say, come to your senses, okay? And then after that, come to the mind, thinking, feeling, willing, and then come to the buddhi, the intelligence, the perspective. And then we're right next door to the soul. It's something that has to happen, which is Guru Kripa, to push us back in front of Krishna. And we're so embarrassed, we apologize, and Krishna's laughing and saying, okay, yeah. So everything is, what is it? Such is the perfection of mystic power. By controlling the breathing, the perfect yogi can continue to live as long as he likes. So Prabhupada didn't teach any pranayamas, except one. There's one, I think it's in the story of Dhruva Maharaj, where Narada Muni is giving the exact sadhana. And it is to breathe in as much as you can. We can try it all now. Every day, it'll force you to sit properly. And take as deep a breath as you can. Okay, here we go. So if you do that, I'm pretty sure you'll feel, you got to be careful because you can actually pull muscles and stuff. So your stretch, it forces you to sit up. And then myself, I have to push my abdomen in because I have a natural, push out there, which is wrong, and I can feel it. I'm probably not going to get rid of it in this lifetime. It influences my consciousness. Now I'm forcing my abdomen in, the back of my spine straight, and it changes my whole consciousness. I start to become deeper in my consciousness. My shoulders go back. Sit properly. My neck comes back, okay, and then try and feel the prana floating up and down. So you can do it, but also singing and dancing with an open throat in front of the deities. Bhakti yoga, we know the goal. We've had some experience, we have some intelligence. So now what we're talking about now is karma mishra bhakti yoga. Jnana mishra bhakti yoga, karma mishra. Do it, do this, do that. Chant with your fingers, chant with your tongue, chant with your jaw, sit properly. You know, for Krishna, for Krishna. Okay, that's why I'm doing it. Not to get mystical powers, not to increase the beauty of my skin. Okay, yeah. And so we acquire all the mystic powers, anima, mahima, prapti, Bastita. We acquire all the mystical powers, but we have them in proportion. You know, if we're lucky, we know why we're acquiring them. Because without becoming a yoga siddhi, having a yoga siddha body, how can we associate with Yogeshwar? Okay, such is the perspective of mystic yoga power. By controlling the perfect yogi, by controlling the breathing. Okay, your breathing is for as much as you can. You hold it, and then exhaust it as much as you can. This, of course, means closing everything down from the bottom, coming all the way up, and pressing it out, which is very good for. Yeah, it's very nice. Prabhupada says people can't chant Hare Krishna, have them chant Om, you know, and they do it, and they have some experience. They begin to develop their consciousness and trust you, and maybe we'll go a little bit farther with this guy, girl, thing. Now, okay, sometimes we hear in the Vedic literatures that some personalities from the Vedic age, such as Vyasadeva and Ashvatthama, are still living. Here we understand that Maru is also still living. Mara. We are sometimes surprised that a mortal body can live for such a long time. The explanation is this longevity. The explanation of this longevity is given here in the word yoga siddhi. If one becomes perfect in the practice of yoga, he can live as long as he likes. Yeah. The demonstration of some trifling yoga siddhi does not constitute perfection. Here is a factual example of perfection. Yoga siddha can live as long as he likes. Okay, so we'll finish off this tirade. You know, don't blame me, blame the Mayapur Institute. They asked me to give this class. My God, Hanumatpresaka Swami gave a 3-hour lecture, 2.5 lecture on a purport chapter with one purport. If you just look at Vedabase.io and eliminate everything but the purport, it's just really funny. There's just, 16 text numbers and one purport sitting here, and the whole thing. Yeah. So my friend Gaja Hantadas, he said he heard one lecture where Prabhupada said, he was talking about kumbhaka yoga, frog yoga. And he's talking about that this is how you do this. The frogs can live without breathing for up to 2 years, at least that much. I saw one documentary very nice documentary. Wish you could find it again, reference. But it showed Australia, one kind of lower place in the ground out in the Australia desert, semi-arid savanna, something. Yeah. And it showed all these life forms coming to drink water, and tortoises in the thing, and all these kind of different animals, and after that rainfall. But then the rainy season stopped, began to dry up, it gets smaller, become mud, like that. And then as it was going, there are things called lung fish. They have gills, but also they have lungs, so they can also breathe air directly like that. So when it was getting drier, these guys were whipping themselves around in the mud, and then burying themselves in the mud, and then blowing a little hole. So they sat there, just breathing air, and they lived only on air. Yeah. But there were frogs who would then bury themselves completely in the mud, and they would live until the next rainy season, which might be 1 year, and sometimes it didn't rain. Or a year, we drought. So and then the second year it would rain. Then they showed everybody coming out, the lungfish, and not all the frogs made it, but some did. You know, so probably this is Kumbhaka yoga. Yes, the frogs can do this. So my friend Gaja Hunter, knowing I was traveling and preaching in Peru, he said he heard Prabhupada say the Peruvians had this art. You know, he also said in the purport, I really read that Ravana was keeping the gold in Brazil. So in the fifth canto, there are different maps of the universe. One of those is a polar projection, looking at the universe, you know, from the point of view of the center of the Earth, from the North Pole. Just take the North Pole and squash it flat on a piece of paper. Okay, that's a polar projection. So everything below the equator is Patala, Patala Loka. So Peru is Patala Loka. Brazil is Patala Loka. Argentina is Patala Loka. The first time I went to Argentina, up to Buenos Aires, the temple president's name was Daitesha, like king of the Daichas. Yeah. And the place is called traditionally Patagonia. Oh my goodness. And they have so many mystical abilities down there. I mean, right now, I mean, I talked to big scientists in Peru, and they're from the Sorbonne. They criticize their own tradition about these mystical guys, a shaman. So, but I asked them, would you spend one night in one of these famous ghost places, Casa Matusita? And they were all smiling and shaking their heads from side to side. Hey, we believe science will explain everything, but we're not fools. You know, we don't insult shaman, you know, because they have so many. This is preaching down there. You haven't got to talk about mystic yoga in South America, Peru, you know, these places, because there's so much direct experience of it like that. Okay. So, this is Prabhupada's talking about it. Prabhupada's saying it's existing, and even in modern times like that, and so on. So this is our kind of reading Prabhupada's books for the bones. So any questions about frogs or 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 the Bhadralok or anything else, or comments at this point? Complaints? Yeah. I will then go ahead and
Can I ask a question?
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, you told about these upper sampradayas.
Yes.
So I'm in Calcutta, so I know about it. But in the scholarly circle also outside Bengal, do they know about these upper sampradayas? So what is their perspective about Gaudiya Vaishnavas in scholarly circle outside Bengal?
Us. Well, I think that you all, um, what's happened here? Okay, I've lost control of my senses. Did I share my screen?
No.
Oh my God, all this time I've been without a screen sharing. It doesn't really matter because we're not, okay. Okay, it doesn't really matter. Okay. Anyway, that's the purport. I see I highlighted it there. Okay. Okay. I think that you all, having the good fortune to be born in India, having good birth, and associating with devotees there, Garanga Darshan, would know better than I do, about that to some degree. But in the circles I've been able to travel in and stuff like that, from was it what Metta from Gujarat? What is it? Maharshi Metta. He's one of the famous poet I know from that side.
Narsi Mehta.
There you go, Narsi Mehta, and then Dayananda Saraswati. Was very kind of acharya. So what is Arabenda, Ramakrishna, So throughout India, there are different people respected like that in their traditions. And other than that, as far as I know, it's not like there are great personalities within any. There are local people in Calcutta. There was what is it, Lokesh? What's his name? Loka Baba. I can't remember his Loka Baba Mandir. I'm not sure how popular he still is. Yeah. But there are more local people like that, well known. And of course, another one is Pushti Marg in Gujarat. And then, what's the other one? They're followers of Ramanuja, actually.
Ramanandis, Maharaj.
What is it?
Ramanandis.
Ramananji, that's South India. Yeah, okay, that. But all the Gujaratis are following them.
Okay. Swami Narayan.
Swami Narayan, yeah, which is divided into two groups, like that. So in Christianity too, also is there's so many traditions in Christianity, 14,000 different sects and divisions. So I can only mention one thing from my perspective, what I know about it. Dr. Samaresh was working with the Gaudiya Math, the Bagh Bazar Gaudiya Math, and helping them. He helps all these organizations. Very, very charitable person. So on the 500th anniversary of Lord Chaitanya, he said you should have an academic symposium. He said, okay, So they organized it. I think it was for 3 days. It was near the Bagh Bazar Gaudiya Math. There's a nice auditorium across the street, and I was leaving India. I had already was scheduled to fly to Delhi, and then he had me coming back, catching another airplane, flying all the way back. Then I had to run out from this program in the afternoon, leave it in the program, rush to the airport, catch an airplane to go back and catch my flight directly. I was planning on spending 2 days in Delhi just before I left, and he pushed me. Okay, so I was talking about Rupa Goswami, and modern contribution to the modern world, and how the theater traditions and so on in the modern world can benefit from our theater traditions and movies and that kind of stuff. And people liked it. Okay. Then anyway, the day it started, the person who was supposed to give the inaugural address, wasn't there, and he came to me and he said, you have to give the inaugural address. And these are all big scholars, and people like presenting and so on. And I was thinking, and what's his name? I can't remember his name now. He was governor of West Bengal. He was in charge of the Secret Service for India for some time.
Governor of West Bengal.
It'll come back. Anyway, he was name, whatever it was. He was the chief guest, and he was going to be on the platform, right after I talked. And this is ridiculous. I'm this American sannyasi, street dog, with Dhoti Uttariya. Why can't somebody else make the inaugural address? Why can't the guy? What's wrong? Why can't the guy show up and do it? You drug me back from Delhi. Dr. Bandyopadhyaya said he's dead. Okay, that was a sufficient excuse. The guy died. All right, we'll forgive you for that. Well, somebody else. And he said, you're the only person with enough improvisational ability with 5 hours warning to get up there and say something intelligent. Okay. So I got up there, and it was such a terrible situation. I'm inaugurating this whole thing. All these very high-class people from Bengal are sitting there. The governor of I almost got his name, it's on the tip of my tongue. The governor of West Bengal, who was formerly in charge of the Secret Service of India, whole state was there. He had 2 guys standing behind him with machine guns like that. It's like I kept glancing out of the side of my eye. Everybody has their karma. When you met this person, I thought, what is his name? You had this impulse to tell him everything bad you'd ever done. It was just like, when I was a child, I pushed my brother in the swimming pool. It was just like, this, Ramakrishna something. It is this desire to confess, that's why I had the job, I guess. So I was up there talking about this whole thing, under pressure, Prabhupada, and he was watching me intensely. And I was afraid he was going to tell his guys with machine guns to shoot me or something. This guy off there. So I sat down and tried to, sit up vertically. Then he got up there and he said, this is just very, was embarrassing. And he said, I've been listening to Hanumatpresaka Swami, and he's an American sannyasi in this ISKCON mission. And he said, I come from a very cultured family, outside of Bengal, And he said, but he knows so much more about our philosophical tradition than I do, And he said, so right now here in front of all of you, I promise that I'm going to take more time investigating our philosophical traditions, and especially the tradition of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like that. Wow. So that's what I understand, is that Ramakrishna's, fanatic following is coming down, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's fanatic following is going up, like that. And for these people, the life of Lord Chaitanya and the introduction to the Chaitanya and the Bhagavatam is a wonderful resource. You can read the whole thing in like one evening very comfortably. And then all these people who know Dayananda Saraswati, Ramakrishna, Aravinda, but don't know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they can read everything in one evening and say, great, now I have some idea. So that's all I can say. Any other final questions or comments before we take our break? Yeah. Okay, it's now 5:45. Let's take a 15-minute break. We can chant Hare Krishna. We'll come back for the final session. Okay, damn be him who first calls hold. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. See you at 15 minutes. Okay, push the button. Okay. Jai. Guru Garanga, Krishna Baladev, Radhashama Sundar Ki Jai. Nittai Gaur, Radhe Sham, Jaya Krishna Balaram. So, can we sing one more song now? Like that? Yeah. Where's Yaya Nilo Premadana? Is everybody back? Is anybody back?
I'm back.
Okay. We have, that's what, what's his name? What's it? General MacArthur said that when they chased him out of the Philippines, I'll be back. And Arnold Schwarzenegger said it after that. Okay. Okay. So this is a nice song. Oh hey Vaishnava Thakur Doyar Sagar Edase Karuna Kori
Vaishnava Thakura Dayara Sagar Edase Koruna Kori
Dia Pada Choya Shodoheya Moya Tomara Charana Dori
Iya Pada Chaya Shodhoye Amaya Omara Charana Dhori
Chaya Baiga Domi Chaya Dosha Shodi Chaya Guna Daihoda Se
Chaya Vega Domi Chaya Dosha Shodhi Chaya Guna Devase
Chaya Sata Sangha Deho Heya Mare Bosechi Sangera Ashe
Chaya Satta Sangha Dehoye Amari Bosechi Sangera Ashe
Ekakiya Mahara Nahipaya Bala Harinama Sankirtane
Ekaki Amara Nahi Paya Bala Harinama Sankirtane
Tume Kripa Kori Shraddha Bindudiya Deho Krishna Namadane
Tumi Kripa Kori Shraddha Bindu Diya Deho Krishna Namadhane
Krishna se tomar Krishna dite paro Tomara Shakati Ache
Krishna se Tomara Krishna dite paro Tomara Shakati Ache
Amito Kangal Krishna Krishna Boli Daitaba Pache Pache
Krishna Krishna boli Daitava pache pache.
Vaishnava Thakur. So the first time I heard this song was in 19, I guess it was um, 78. Okay. Again, I was initiated in 74 in the temple in San Francisco. I became the treasurer. And finally in 78, they said, okay, Hanumatpresaka Swami, Hanumatpresaka Das, Ramacharya, you've been a steady guy. He should also go to India. You know, the big book distributors would go like first year if he sold enough books. But I took me longer, 74, okay, 4 years. So everybody was going for the Mayapur festival, and the Kartik festival was practically speaking nothing. So, but anyway, they got me on an airplane all by myself, and I was flying to India all by myself. Yeah, Sannyas Dharma, very unusual. And I landed in India in 1978, and oh my goodness, it was strange, you know. And then I came out, I didn't know where to go, what to do, and asking people who spoke almost no English. And somebody said this bus, that bus. Okay, so I mean, it was still early in the morning, 6 o'clock. So funny, some guy, I thought it was a military guy. And then later I just realized he was a security guard and had some uniform. Got us on some bus, and I met another devotee on the airplane, Rick Dananda. He'd also come the same time. So fortunately, we waited for the bus to leave, and we finally got to Vrindavan and stayed there. And it was very interesting being in Vrindavan in 1978. Of course, this was the first anniversary of Srila Prabhupada's Tirobhava festival. And not too many devotees there. You know, some had come for it, but it was the first time of the festival of the, what do you call it, the Kartik festival. So before that, we were all feeling, you know, we're the Sankirtan movement, we're conquering the world, we're risking our lives in Soviet Russia. We're going all over the world and opening so many centers and everything else. But if talking to people like Hansaduda, it was Prabhupada. You know, Prabhupada was the engine behind this entire movement and traveling everywhere. And a lot of it too was letters. You know, Hansaduda said that's what he did. He was Prabhupada would dictate, produce so many letters. Hansaduda told me that Prabhupada told him that Prabhupada said every big man has 3 secretaries. With the first secretary, he just has him read the letters, maybe while Prabhupada's taking massage and Hari Sori or something's reading the letters. And then Prabhupada would say, tell him this, tell him that, thank him with our usual reply. So giving the idea for the lecture, usually, I mean, the letter, just the structure, maybe for some letters, maybe more exact, but generally speaking, most of the letters, you're just giving the secretary, tell this, Then that secretary then takes his notes and then tries to put them together and describe them. And the second secretary then takes it down as a, more of a complete letter. And the third secretary takes that written thing and then adjusts the grammar, puts it all in, types it up, everything else, puts the formalities and sends it back to the second secretary. He looks at it, initials it, goes to the first secretary and he looks at it. And if it's okay, he initials it. And then Hansaduda said, Prabhupada said, if his first secretary has initialed it, usually the big man doesn't even look at it or read it. So Jaya Vaitamarz makes the same point that when you're dealing with Prabhupada letters, you have to understand this, that he didn't deal with them the same way he dealt with the Bhaktivedanta purports. So there may be words and phrases and things put in there and details which Prabhupada did not actually dictate. Okay. And also, Prabhupada never authorized the distribution of his letters. Hansaduda, who was a radical, got a hold of the collection that the BBT had done after Prabhupada left and then published them. And then the BBT had to keep up with that and they published them also. But it was never authorized. And in one letter to Brahmananda, I'm quoting a letter now, a letter to Brahmananda, Prabhupada says, don't distribute my letters because they're written to certain people in certain specific times like that, situations, unless I tell you to. So some, yes, Prabhupada letters were on that level. So anyway, I got to India, and before with the great Sankirtan movement, we're going all over the world and all the big guns, Bhavananda, that Hansaduda, Jayatirtha, Satsrup Maharaj, all very prominent and Sankirtan leaders and so many things. But by the time of the 1978 Tirubhava festival, you could start to see the cracks starting to come in the great, powerful Sankirtan machine, the great institution like that. And people were already starting to have big people manifest problems, and the number of devotees joining was dropping already, quite a bit. So then that's when people really began, because usually you didn't see Prabhupada for 1 year. That was not unusual. He was staying in some temple. You didn't see Prabhupada for a year. And so it wasn't unusual. But then that first Tirubhava festival in different temples there, that's when it really hit home that that it wasn't that Srila Prabhupada was someplace else. It was that Prabhupada's not here anymore. And it really started to take root at that point. Hey, it's not just that, started sinking into the intelligence, the Baba, the perspective is Prabhupada's gone, and we're on our own, And so the whole festival went on, was very interesting, different interesting features and facets. But then at the very end, after the whole thing, and they're starting to see these things and talking, devotees making these presentations and seeing each other, big leaders, everything else. Then Narayan Maharaj, he sang this song, O He Vaishnava Thakur. And it was so intense because it was just expressing the Baba, Amito Kangal, Krishna Krishna Boli. Kangal is something worse than poor, right? It means destitute. I am destitute. I'm just running behind you saying Krishna, Krishna. I'm just like a dog. Krishna, Krishna. So that was the feeling that, yes, that you're Prabhupada, it's because of you everything is possible. So we go ahead here. Can you see our screen? You can see our screen, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it says it's from Sharanagati, and it's from the section called Bhajana Lalasa, Song 7. But I think it's also like maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or something like that. There's maybe 4 more songs. And you can see they're all songs taken from Upadeshamrita, like that. So if you look at it, okay, Vaishnava Thakur. They asked Prabhupada, can we call you Prabhupada? And he said, yes. Okay. Later they asked, can we call you Thakur? And he said, no, too soon. So as far as I understand the whole situation, you can become called Narottam Das Thakur or Bhaktivedanta Swami Thakur when your disciples become Prabhupads, okay? Then you become Thakur. So it's, what as I understand, it's, Prabhupada says it means as good as God. Thakur means as good as God. The Indians come into the temple and say, is there a darshan of Thakurji? Like that, But Prabhupada then also says, but in Bengal, it also means the cook. Like that. So Thakur, the cook is as good as God. Okay. So it's very intense, very high. O He Vaishnava Thakur, Doyar Sagar, Ocean of Mercy, Edase Koruna Kori, but be merciful to your disciple. Diyapada Chaya, Diyapada Chaya, give me the shade of your feet. Shodo Heya Maya, purify me. Yeah, I'm hanging on Tomara Charvana Dori. I'm hanging on to your lotus feet. And now we see it has the first verse of Upadeshamrita, the first 3 verses. Chaya, not the first Chaya, now it's Chaya, short, means 6. Ekdotin Jarpanch Chaya. Chaya Bhega Domi. Help me dominate the 6 bushes, text number 1. Chaya Dosha Shodi. Purify me of the 6 faults. Achahara Prayasas Cha. Chaya Guna Deho Dase. Give the 6 good qualities, Utsahan Nishchaya Daryat, to your disciple. Chaya Satasanga. This is text number 4, 5, 6. Give me the give me your associate. Give me the 6 kinds of association. Dadati Pratigrinati, Deho He Amare, something or other, yeah. Bosechi Sangera Ase. I'm sitting down to get your next to you to get your association. I want to sit next to you. Bosechi, sit down to get your association. Okay, so he's asking for 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, text 1, 2, 3. And then 4, 5, 6 is talking about association. 4 talks about what is association. Dadati, Pratagrinati, Guyamaketi, Prachati. Very essential. These are universal, primordial activities in the universe. You find them everywhere. Giving and receiving gifts, and especially talking confidentially. Guyamaketi, Prachati. So that's the process. And text number 6 then goes to go Vapusha Chadoshayer. Okay, it's oh boy, dosha. Okay, I can't remember the first part of it. Anyway, I'll come back. So uh, that that verse is then talking about association with the Uttamadhikari. Text 4, what is association universally? Text 5, how to apply it with devotees, especially Madhyamadhikari. And text 6, how it applies with the Uttamadhikari. Gangam Bahasam Nakulu Budapinapamkaya. Yeah. Oh, okay. So Uttamadhikari, his body is not a part of this material world. I actually had a mystical experience and saw how Prabhupada's body was not a part of the material world. But what does he say? I want to sit down. I want to get your association. Okay. Then he says, Eka ki amara, all by myself. Nahi paya bala. I don't get the strength to do Harinam Sankirtan because 7 and 8 then take us to this point. Shat Nama Krishna Charitari Sukirtanasmyu, Nama Rupa. Okay, Sakama Krishna, Yat Nama, Shat Nama Krishna Charitari. Yat Nama Krishna Charitari. 7 and 8 talk about chanting, talk about kirtan. If you do kirtan properly, then the form appears. You want to see the form of Krishna. Krishna, 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 hey. So you want to see Krishna's form. Okay, where's the deity? Where's the picture of Krishna? Nama Rupa Charit. And once you experience the form, you start to experience the qualities, the guna, the charit, the characteristics. Krishna's unhappy with me. Well, I should be. I've been a rascal. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Okay, Krishna is smiling at me. Okay, he knows I'm sincere, but I did something stupid. Okay, so you come before the deities. See a picture of Prabhupada. The Nama Rupa Charit Adi, Chari Adi, Adi. After the qualities, the guna, then comes the sangha. Krishna's never alone. At least there's a cow. Then once there's sangha, there's lila. And so maybe I've had some experience like this. Maybe you also, it expands like that. When we're chanting properly, then we want to see the deity. We want to chant in front of the deities. They're chanting in front of the deities. And we start to see their qualities. We want to see them closely. What do they look like? And then we start to see, there's associates. And then finally, if we're really chanting properly, we should come to the point where lila is there, and different experiences of this, Prabhupada, revealing his consciousness. But what does he say? He says, I can't do 7 and 8. This is my interpretation. I cannot, do Harinam. Everything comes from this. Ekakiya Mara Nahipaya Bale Harinama Sankirtan. Tumi Kripa Kori. Shradu Bindu Diya. Be merciful to me. Give me one drop, one bindu. Lady's dot on the forehead. One bindu of your mercy, one drop of your mercy. Deho Krishna Namadane. And then I can get the treasure of Krishna's name. Then I can engage in Sankirtan. So that's what was happening, is that the devotees realized that without Prabhupada's mercy, this Sankirtan movement was not going on. It wasn't going on. And then Narayana Maharaj was voicing for everybody at that point this song that we're Krishna say Tomara, Krishna is yours, Srila Prabhupada. Krishna Dite Paro. You can give him to anybody you like. Anybody you want to give him to. Tomara Shakati Ache. That's your potency, your power. Amito Kangal. I am destitute. Krishna, Krishna, Bholi. I'm just Dayatava Pache Pache. I'm just running behind you, chanting Krishna, 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 Krishna. It's all the articulate Sanskrit Bhaktivedanta qualifications I have. Krishna, Krishna, running behind Srila Prabhupada. So, a very wonderful song for meditation, contemplation, explanation. And very nice song to chant, before we start reading Upadeshamrita. So any comments or questions about the song and, its relation to Prabhupada? Okay.
Maharaj, we wish to hear more about nectar of instruction from you.
Well, I was just going to talk about that. Okay. I figure I have a captive audience. Nobody can run away like that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So a little bit again. But before we leave this body, it's time to consolidate. I really, really think, 2014. Again, I could die of a heart attack right during this lecture. You can see my throat's falling apart. I could just barely make it. So I really want to do a Waves of Devotion, Nectar of Devotion. Our little book is called Tava Pache Pache. A study, a summary study. Afterwards to the Upadeshamrita, Nectar of Devotion of Srila Prabhupada. So how I did it, how you can write books. Every day after Mangalarti, I would just go through, sit with her alone. I would just take maybe just like 5 minutes, and I would read through the Nectar of Instruction, and then I would put down the comments that I wanted to make, the ideas, the connections, the references. And so those were all recorded, and it took maybe three attempts to get them all transcribed. Finally got them transcribed. And of course, that needed so much editing work. Usually you have to really do a good book, you have to edit 6 times, and different people working on it. Gopi Puranadana had maybe the same thing, 5 other people working on editing with him. It's not a small thing. Making a good book is the same as opening a big temple, maintaining a big temple. So anyway, the little book, and then finally it came around the point where Radhika Raman, our good disciple, took up being kind of like chief editor, and Srinath Krishnadas, a nice devotee, is working on it too. And we've gone to the point where we're just about ready to publish. And what it is, I feel so satisfied. It's all the comments I wanted to make, basically, and all my knowledge. And you'll publish the first copy, and then we'll see, it'll be out there a little prominent. And there are many other people who also are, inclined to Nectar of Instruction this way. When Mataji, I forgot her name, she did a very, very complete study guide, and it's so many things. And we're just want to be one little part of the orchestra, but hopefully make this big noise, and some people will start to say this and that. And already in the, so I would say one thing is the appendices in the book are not to be neglected. After the book, there's a different appendices. And the first appendices is a little biography of Prabhupada. And so if we'll test you on it now, we'll test you for Nectar of Instruction for Bhakti Shastri, Nectar of Instruction for Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhaktivedanta, Bhakti Sarvabhauma. You should know Nectar of Instruction more and more deeply. So for Bhakti Vaibhava, we figure you should be able to answer any question that can be taken from that biography. Bhakti Vaibhavan should be able to know the biography of Prabhupada, completely through what happened in different years, when he took sannyas, when he was born, where he was born, like that. So you should be able, and maybe also Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhaktivedanta, Bhaktivedanta closed book essay, right? You have half an hour to write a biography of Srila Prabhupada. And of course, how nectarian that would be, just for your own benefit. Bhakti Vaibhava, you should, for us, our Bhakti program is Lilamrita, the 1-volume book, the teaching, the biography of Lord Chaitanya, the short one in the beginning, the Nectar of Instruction, just reading through it with a teacher, and what's it, the Science of Self-Realization? It's called the Science of Self-Realization. And so many people have come to ISKCON because of that book. Those are 4 books for our Bhakti program. So some point, maybe Bhaktivedanta. By then, I think you should have read the entire Lilamrita. Go through the whole thing like that. When I ask people if they've read Lilamrita in the 1 volume in the classes, and everybody raises their hand. So many people. That's the mission. All the sannyasis and senior devotees. Then I ask how many people cried a little bit when they read it. Everybody raises their hand, because you realize this movement is such a treasure. It did not just fall from the sky. it was there because, Srila Prabhupada is and is still giving his life, to make this movement work, And so it's such a responsibility and a great honor to participate in this movement, Srila Prabhupada, and just try not to commit offenses, and find some little place where we can fit in and help, be a part of it. So the biography is there in the appendices. Then there's the Sanskrit study guide. Okay, so it's kind of like Prabhupada expects everybody to be able to pronounce properly. And that's kind of about it, I think. He wanted everybody to pronounce properly. Next, we said understanding the concept of sandhi, understanding the concept of the different case endings and that kind of stuff. And what we want to include for ours, which is basically focusing on Bhakti by Baba level, is, again, we'll translate, we'll give the Anvaya, we'll put all the words in our English, English word order. So when you read it, the word by word translation, you can see, okay, that's how the logic comes out. Then now I understand. I can chant the verses with feeling, with meaning, and I understand. And then Radhika will write a little a logical explanation of why Sanskrit occurs in a different order than English. Once we understand that, okay, then we can start to chant these things, enter into it, and get subtle things to see why the purports talk about certain things. Okay. Then there's a section in the appendix of cited verses. So that's where we have a PowerPoint show, which goes through all of the verses. That's what I was doing. All the citations in Upadeshamrita, direct, included, cited, and indirect, quoted. And that was pretty complete. I did it as a PowerPoint show, but we'll try and transfer it to, to a file, make it a separate file. And they said no, included there. And then you can see how Upadeshamrita is a perfect Vaishnava verse book. It covers everything from controlling your senses up to Radhakund. So the citations include everything. And again, if you follow the citations, you'll see so much. You mentioned that. And then finally, we want to put in our own index. The index is useful, but it's the people who were doing the indexes, as I understand, from being involved, it probably wasn't so scrutinizing, about who was doing it and this and that and stuff. And so the indexes definitely can be, reworked, Yeah. Building your own index of where you can find verses that you need to cite, the way you're building your logic. So what I need to do, hopefully, after this is over, is just go through the book and see all the different topics that I use. For example, Prabhu, where does it say in Prabhupada's books that we have to come to Mangalarti? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Then I show in the Upadeshamrita and people go, huh, yeah. Yeah. Well, where does it say, that you don't have to take initiation from Uttamadakari guru, okay, where, yeah. So there are many places that I've learned to use it as a very, very nice tool. Prabhupada said, I want a soft cover Bhagavad Gita, like those Christian street preachers have in New York. So my disciples can do the same thing. They can go on the street and they can open their Bhagavad Gita and point to the verses and show people, yeah, and convince people. So Upadeshamrita is a little more handy. And again, I take it over to Office Max, which is a big, chain office supply store. I like them because it's Office Max, which is Om. And you go in, how much did it cost to chop the spine off the glue binding? Maybe it's $1.50. How many can you do at one time? Maybe 3. So they chop them off, and then I bought my own spiral binding machine where I can do these metal spiral bindings and stuff and like that. And I asked the guy, do you do this very often? Chop books and put spiral bindings? He says, yeah, for cookbooks, because people want it to lie flat on the table. So the same way, if you do that, Upadeshamrita, when it's spiral bound, it's just like, you can just open it up and lie it there and sit it in front of you. You also can change the pictures if you want to add things into it before you bind it, Yeah. Okay. So that's some of our background there. And we finish off here. I had 2 PowerPoint shows. Okay. I showed you the one before, which was our promo, 3 minutes with a genius, just running on the table in the kiosk and in the lobby of the university. And people passing by all day and picking peanuts and talking to you and buying books and promising to come to the lecture. Okay. Okay. And they come. Okay. Because they want to spend 3 minutes with a genius. Okay. So then we have, I'm not sure I have, which is which here. I have 3 PowerPoint shows, and these were done 1,000 years ago. Okay. So I push, what is this? I push function F5. Okay. 3 minutes with a genius. Can you see this, Maharashji?
Yes, Maharaj, it's
Oh,
visible.
it's very fat. My goodness. I'm throwing my voice 12,000 miles. 3 minutes with a genius, a summary overview of Srila Rupa Goswami's Upadeshamrita, translated with erudite purports as the nectar of instruction by Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And this photo is so nice. It's like so parampara, you know, with Bhaktisiddhanta and Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Summary. But before we look at each verse, first let's summarize the whole treatise. Okay. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has an excellent song that does this, Vaishnava Thakur. It is one of several songs on Nectar of Instruction. Okay, then there's a giant gorilla saying, sing it, discuss it, or we'll twist your head off. Okay, we'll do it, we'll do it. Text 1 defines devotional service. Engage the senses in the service of the master of the senses, Rishikesha. Maharaj, what is the Paribhasa Sutra of Nectar of Devotion? As some people say, but we can't find any citation which why they say it.
That is Anya Bhilashita Shunyam. Is that one, Maharaj?
Yes. What is the verse number?
Sorry, Maharaj, I don't know.
Okay, I will now make you remember it. You'll never be able to forget it ever again. 1, 1, 1, 1. Okay, there you go. Can you remember that?
Yes, Maharaj, now it's easy.
Yeah, 1.1.1.11. Before that, okay. Okay, then right after that, what is 1.1.12? Do you know?
I think
Verse right after.
it should be Sarvapadi Vinirmuktam, is that?
That's it. I think it's from the Narada Pancharatra. So you engage the senses in the service of the master of the senses. So the first verse in Upadeshamrita is the same thing. It's the same definition. This is devotional service, Prabhupada says. So we see that the 2 books are very similar. Text 2 and 3 give things that help or hinder, actually things that hinder or help this engagement. Okay, engage your senses in the service of the master of the senses. Text 2 tells us 6 things that'll make it difficult. Over-collecting, overeating, talking prajalpa, associating with stupid people, not following the rules and regulations, something like that. Text 3 then tells us 6 things that'll make it easy. Now, be enthusiastic, rise early in the morning, be determined. Okay. Text 4, 5, and 6 discuss association with Vaishnavas. Number 4, what is association? Number 5, associating with 3 levels of devotees. Number 6, associating with top-level devotee. Now, there are 2 principal topics in Nectar of Instruction. Association and process. Of these 2, association is primary. Jayananda Das, talking to the brahmacharis, one time he said, Krishna consciousness means eating and sleeping in the best of company. He said, if you eat prasadam and sleep in the brahmachari ashram, you'll have no problems. Okay. So for girls, take prasadam and stay in your daddy's house, your husband's house, or your grown-up son's house, and you'll have no problems. Very simple. All the rules and regulations follow very naturally. Text 7 and 8 discuss the process. Okay, here's a picture of someone doing yoga. For every technique in the Ashtanga Yoga system, there is a corresponding technique in the Bhakti Yoga system. It's a quote from Prabhupada. For every technique and we're saying that chanting and dancing, of course, takes care of pranayama, and achahara too. You see that. Chant japa, sankirtan, worship the deity, read the Krishna book. This is good for both liberation and spiritual elevation. That's text 7 and 8. Text 7 talks about sambandha. Give up your attachments to the material world and become attached to Krishna. And text number 8 then gives abhideya, how to do that, coming to the point of raganuga bhakti, like that. Yeah. And I guess after that we come to, it's okay. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavan, Shri Govinda, Gopinatha, Madana Mohan. Okay. Text 9 discusses spiritual geography. Text 8 says you do this in Braja, Tishtan Vraje. You can do your Raganuga Bhakti in Braja, following a Braja Basi. Yeah. So text 9 discusses the spiritual geography, a roadmap of the spiritual world. Vaikuntaj Denito Vara Madhupari. It discusses Vaikunta, which is greater than the kingdom of God, greater than any place else, okay? But Mathura, Mandala, is greater, higher, more intense than all the rest of Vaikunta. And within that, the 12 forests are more intense. And within that, Govardhan is more intense. And the more intense than Govardhan is Radhakund. Okay, so it's a little geography. 10 returns to association from the most abominable, karmis, vikarmis. Probably the purport's probably expansive to vikarmis. Vikarmis, karmis, gyanis, vimukti gyanis, sadhana bhaktas, prema bhaktas, braja bhaktas, gopi bhaktas, bhaktin radha. Okay. To the most desirable, Radhakund and Radha Krishna and Radhakund. So that's number 11. Okay. Summary of our summary. Engage the senses in Krishna's service. Things that hinder things that hinder, things that help. 4, 5, 6, association, the magic. 7 and 8, the process, also magic. 9, where to practice, summary of all association. 10, culminating in Radhakund. Okay, thank you very much. Anjana Sudha Academy, jayarama.us is how to contact us. Okay, so any questions about this, comments? Anybody else have any other analysis of the book?
It's wonderful, Maharaj. Actually, the process you have just linked up with this whole thing. It's really very important. Actually, Nectar of Instructions is the first book what has been given to us, which is the most important instructions given by Rupa Goswami. Actually, when that is really linked with the whole process, that really helps a lot of devotees to go deeper and deeper and also practice. As you mentioned, actually, and Sambandha Abhidya, it's really very scientific and it helps us to preach and also practice very nicely, Maharaj. This is my realization.
And that's what in the preface, I'll show you that. What you're doing now, you're going right ahead with the preface then. Yeah. Nadia Bihari Das. Yeah. Okay, I haven't seen these PowerPoint shows for a long time.
It's very enlightening, Maharaj.
Well, here's another one then. Like that. Everybody has their way of preaching. To me, PowerPoint shows Clint Eastwood, always quote him, the famous American cowboy guy, movie star. In one of his cowboy movies, he's in a very intense situation, and he says, "I don't talk much, but when I talk, my pistol speaks for me." Okay, so you can distribute books that way. Just go out with your pistol and distribute books. Okay. But somebody else, my nature is, many things. You discover your character, whatever. In this lifetime, at least, Brahmana, Shudra. I love making PowerPoint shows. It's Shudra activity, and I'm learning better. And even also, university professors and other people. One big director, he said, "You're a master of PowerPoint." Okay, so this is, what I can do. It takes time to discover these things. Everybody has to develop their own technique. You cannot, Well, anybody else? Okay, let's do that one. There's another one here which says, there are two of them. Nectar of Instruction PowerPoint preface. Okay, there's two more here. Was it function F5? Nothing happened. Okay, we'll try again. There it is. Tavapachipache, Nectar of Instruction. Here's Rupa Goswami again with a monkey in the tree. Afterwards to Prabhupada's Nectar of Instruction, Abbreviations Swami, Anjana Sudha Academy. His Divine Grace. What's his better? Founder. Okay, so right on the first page, before you even open the book, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Some say Prabhupada is the only Diksha Guru in ISKCON for the next 10,000 years. Many questions about Prabhupada's position. But this is the position that he himself chose. This is the title that he chose to appear before you open any one of his books. It says right there, founder Acharya, Samstapaka Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And he said every single letter that goes out from the society, every building, where the name is there, that this should be there. And experience was, if someone didn't put this on there, founder Acharya, the Prabhupada was heavy with them. You're trying to kill your guru. You're trying to, couldn't breathe after it. So after that, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. No one will occupy or share this position during or after his lifetime. Prabhupada put that in the official documents. And nobody shall share or occupy this position during or after his lifetime. So that's Prabhupada's position. Founder. He has made the foundation for ISKCON. We must build on that, but not change it. In Nectar of Instruction, we will find many statements about what is the foundation of ISKCON. So maybe I think 7 different things Prabhupada says about why this society exists, what is the purpose, what does it do. Acharya, he teaches by his example. He practices what he preaches. Okay. Founder Acharya, this is the title that Prabhupada adamantly and repeatedly demanded for himself. Okay. Can you see the page now? How long is it taking to load?
Yes, it's visible, Maharaj.
Okay, so then we open the book and we come to the table of contents. Okay. Preface, text 1. My book is text 1 is page 1, text 2 is page 14, text 3 is page 26. And there's the appendices, the author, the Sanskrit and pronunciation guide, and also cited books, which we didn't include. So we did a graph here, and now you can see that there's 11 verses along the bottom. And the top part then is how many pages. So which is the shortest text? which purport is the shortest?
9.
Yeah.
9.
Okay. What is that one? 7, 8. Is that correct? Okay. I guess it's correct. Okay. Well, you can see it gets shorter as it kind of goes there. Text number 11 is 6 pages. Doesn't seem correct. Okay. Anyway, because the very, very last one's the shortest. The graph may not have come across properly, but you look at it, you can see that. Okay. So text 10 is text 11. Anyway, I think the very last one's the shortest because it talks about going to Radhakund and Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati say this, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. You can go there, but it's very difficult. You can go there, but it's very difficult. So anyway, this graph may need some correction. I'm looking at it, But you can look at the size of the verses and you can see, there's more emphasis on some things. Nectar of Instruction preface. The Krishna Consciousness movement is conducted under the supervision of Srila Rupa Goswami. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas or Bengali Vaishnavas are mostly followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of whom the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan are direct disciples. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur has sung Rupa Raghunatha Pade. Okay. So, what is a preface? If you look in a writer's guide about how to write, how to publish your books, everything else, they say, many of them will tell you that a preface to a book should, tell you the purpose of the book. Okay, Krishna has left. He's took everything with him. So the Srimad Bhagavatam will give us a new incarnation now that Krishna has gone. Under what circumstances it is being produced? Well, Krishna has left. Kali Yuga is coming, and Maharaj Pariksit is about to die. He's going to leave his body, and Sukadeva Goswami and everybody else are assembled there in that situation. What are the qualifications of the author? Sukadeva Goswami has all these qualifications. It's all described in the first canto. What are the qualifications expected of the reader? Okay, the Maharaj Pariksit has these qualifications. The sages have these qualifications. So the first canto satisfies all these requirements for what a preface should have. What is the purpose of the book? Under what circumstances was it written? And a reader should know this. And what are the qualifications of the author, and what qualifications are expected of the reader, like that. So Nectar of Instruction, does it have all these qualifications? Okay, there's our monkey. Can you find these in the Nectar of Instruction preface? Okay, the first two paragraphs of Nectar of Instruction preface are a preface, but the second two paragraphs are an introduction. Okay, and what does it introduce? Because it's so short, so the preface and the introduction are combined. Well, the second two paragraphs introduce the first verse. That's what an introduction should do. Okay, it's introducing the whole text, introducing the next first verse, how to control your senses. Text 1, control your senses. Okay, and there we have some temptation. This is called I don't know if you have this in India, you're familiar with these things. You have sweets in India. This is in America, it's called a banana split. You can go to the ice cream parlors and ask for a banana split, and they'll split a banana and they'll put it in there, 3 kinds of ice cream. And you can ask for this. So this is sense gratification. And then you can take it and offer it to Krishna. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So in Nectar of Instruction, we find a parampara. This is true of many of Prabhupada's books. The preface, he actually goes through and explains how this book is being received. And it's also typical that you'll find other places that Prabhupada doesn't go through it in a linear German fashion, but he kind of starts out maybe with the prominent thing and then backs up to the some of the beginning principles, and then finishes it off with the final principle, then comes back to the prominent thing. So in a parade, we see the same thing. Before the parade, there's somebody coming with a banner. Then there's, girls singing and dancing, throwing flowers on everybody. Then there's some people playing drums and singing with instruments. Then there are people with fans, and the actual important person comes, Madhvacharya. Then after Madhvacharya, some other people come by. And the very, very end, there's somebody picking up everything behind that. So the same way in the preface, it's ordered differently. I would say it's ordered according to tastiness, to rasa. But if you actually look at it in the preface and Nectar of Instruction, you find that there's Krishna, Radharani, Gopis, Lord Chaitanya, Rupa Goswami, 6 Goswamis, Narottam Das Thakur, Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and us. And they're all mentioned there. So this is what we're getting. Krishna associates with Radharani and the Gopis, and Lord Chaitanya is in the mood of the Gopis, Radharani, Rupa Goswami, 6 Goswamis, Narottam Das Thakur. So this is a very nice little parampara, summarizing how we're receiving everything. Such a nice summary. But this is how we're talking about. Do you see how detailed and deep is Srila Prabhupada's consciousness? Okay. So, okay. I don't know why I had this graphic here. It's a nice graphic. Yeah. Do you see how detailed and deep is Srila Prabhupada's consciousness? Yeah. Just on the cover, just in the preface, there is so much to see. Yeah. Okay. And now we go on talking about, we did mention this before, the first citation is Rupa Raghunatha Pade. And we mentioned all this before, that this song is the first song in Sharanagati. It's one of 2 songs, only 2 songs that Prabhupada mentions. So by following the citation, you come to something very valuable, very intense. So on Bhakti by Baba level, I think you should have followed all the citations. or you should, something like that. You should, if you followed them all. Bhaktivedanta, maybe you should be able to know all the content like that. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay, we hope this gives you more of a handle on Srila Prabhupada's nectar of instruction. Maybe we can do some on the other texts, but even if not, please appreciate the depth and value of even one book of Srila Prabhupada, which constitutes first instructions for neophyte devotees. Thank you. So, any comments on this? Questions? We're coming to the end of our week together. Anybody have any questions about anything else here? About the whole, curriculum we've done? I guess we're going to meet again. Who's presenting next week, Prabhu?
Maharaj, it seems Krishna Kshetra Maharaj has given.
Oh, yeah, he's one of my closest, what do you call it, partners. We have very similar consciousness. Yeah. Wow. So maybe I'll come and listen a little bit if it's okay. Yeah. And then we'll finish off the canto together, which is everybody's great distress. So we've talked about the dynasty, Maharaj Sagar and his sons and grandsons, Amshuman, and how he saw Kapila, got the remedy, got the prescription for the cure. Bhagirata, yes, Saudas was able to free the ancestors. And then Saudas became Rakshasa and was eating people. And the Brahmana's wife gave very, very good reasoning and argument why he shouldn't do it, but cursed him. Okay. And then it comes down to Katvanga Maharaj, who did very, very, activities. He gave very, very good example of how to become Krishna conscious. And then for Katvanga Maharaj on down to Maharaj Dasarat, and then Ramchandra, who shows such good examples of how to live as a king, how to be grihasta and varna ashram. And of course, after his sons, we got to finish that off. Where is that? Anyway, you know what it is. After that, so-and-so was the son of so-and-so, was the son of so-and-so, was the son of so-and-so. And after that, there'll be, I think, no more Surya dynasty, the solar dynasty, only plunderers and, horrible people. It's a very, very, very nice dramatic presentation of the age of Kali in Peter Brook's Mahabharata. The actor who plays Yudhishthira describes it, and it's frightening, as he's seeing everything. And he says, then in the end, there is only fire and water, and everything is finished, for 1,000 years, and then it starts again. It's a Peter Brook Mahabharata is very nice. So, any final questions or comments? Yeah.
Yes, Maharaj, if I could just ask a general question.
Okay. Yeah.
Maharaj, it seems there's so much material that we could read and study, and obviously the different levels you've described with Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhaktivedanta, Bhakti Sarvabhauma, and there is really no limit or end to it. And sometimes I struggle with this this consideration of how much effort should I put into studying more and more versus the amount of effort I need to put into applying it. And if there is a sort of harmonization of the two, because I also forget many things. I can do a whole 3-month course, and 6 months later, most of that's gone.
Yes, this is a very, very prominent question, big question, everything else. I had Nitai Gaur Sundar's father was a famous poet in India, Kamar Chandra Prakash Singh Bharati. So he was pushing everybody to write poetry. So you should try and write poetry. Try and write poetry. One couplet I had was Radharani refuses to grow. Radharani refuses to know. She's never gets older than 16 years old. Okay, she refuses to grow up. And she refuses to know. Radharani doesn't, she's a village girl. the gopis in Vrindavan are really afraid of the girls in Mathura, that they'll steal Krishna. And they're so impressed with these girls in Mathura because they're so educated, they're so cultured. They can even do crossword puzzles. It says that. Most of the gopis can't even read and write. But these girls in Mathura are so clever, they can do crossword puzzles. So knowledge is secondary, to developing love of God. That goes with Vaidhi Bhakti, Raganuga Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti, Prema Bhakti. So wherever we're at, and of course, so many details are given in terms of Vaidhi Bhakti, in terms of, And so that's the whole point, is that we want to learn as much, we want to study as much, we want to accumulate different tools and resources and skills and abilities. We don't want to make it achahara, over collecting. How it's developing in terms of our service. And I mentioned before that Prabhupada says even in 100 years, you cannot study all these books thoroughly, and no disciple can take everything the spiritual master is offering. So when I heard those things, exactly, I was going through the same thing you're going through. My goodness, so these courses, take these courses, Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti by Baba, take them as a chance to go through and see everything, to learn a little bit about everything, to learn a little bit about all of Prabhupada's books, okay? But also then start to accumulate your map, your structure, your tastes, developing ultimately your rasa with the books, But logically, before that, and including actually, is developing your logical understanding of the books and so on. So you know a little bit about everything. For example, I have my nature preaching in the academic atmosphere. So 3 books I really like. I just very natural for me to distribute. Light of the Bhagavat is our outreach tool. It was designed for Prabhupada, preaching to cultural, intelligent people, intellectual people. So that's my nature, and especially Chinese people, because I'm born on Guam. So I really, Light of the Bhagavat is just, I buy them by the case, and use them. Then one text says, read the works of the Goswamis. Okay, so natural thing is then to take people to nectar of instruction, And then the last book we use especially is Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, because it's only 500 years old. It presents Lord Chaitanya. It's an extract of Chaitanya Charitamrita. You can divide it into like 5 different sections. And it's so natural, so easy for like university professors, Indologists, philosophy teachers, anthropologists. They can all look at it and say, okay, your other books are good, Swamiji. I'll read this. Can we read it together? Okay. So like that, you develop your relationship with Prabhupada's books, and take these courses as a chance to see all the books systematically, And some people I'm German, so I like to see everything very analytically. Somebody else will see something else in Prabhupada's books. It's a big elephant. Nobody can see no blind man can know the whole elephant. So is that okay?
Yes, Maharaj, thank you.
Okay, so thank you all very much for your association. Please forgive our offenses. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. See you in 1 week.
So, Maharaj, we would like to express our heartfelt thanks to you because you presented very in-depth philosophy in a very light mood with your anecdotes and jokes. So that made mood very light simultaneously. And it was very devotional with the Vaishnav songs you sang in the classes. So we're looking forward to have your association again, Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I would like to really offer my respects to you, and would like to share for the last 1 week that you had showered the nectar. In fact, there was never a moment that actually we could withdraw our attention from what you were saying. It was so intense, and you were mixing up different kinds of rasas, as we could see, and you being a personification of not just only the knowledge, but a personification of well understood realizations. And you presented them with a combination of scriptural references along with Prabhupada's experiences that you had personally or with your associates who had them personally, and brought it to the light to understand. In fact, the text, whatever was being read, and you made us a real cakewalk for us. We didn't even have to flip the pages of the book. It was all there in your presentations. And more so, it was like directly feeding us with cakes and with sweets all the time, with highlighted markings on it, and so that we could just go through them. And it was all just because you have an overflowing mercy that you really want to give this. And when you just said that you were 73 years old, I was not ready to believe that, because you don't sound it. Neither your actions nor your activities talk of your age. You are much, much more younger. In fact, probably the youngest among all those who are sitting here. That is the spirit with which you actually gave us the understanding. And we just have very little words to thank you. And we are astounded by the way how you speak 2.5 hours non-stop. And that is something very extraordinary. And in between you pinch us to say, is there any questions? Is there something you want to comment? And we have to really search for words and look for what else that we can actually ask from you. You've been pouring and pouring and pouring. So we really wish that we have long association with you, and we wish and we pray to Lord Nrsingadev to give you many, many more years so that you can actually give so much to this whole world. And something very interesting, at people at your age, so-called age that you actually are telling us about, is someone who just wants to relax out. Even though they may be world-renowned preachers, they just want to relax and give it to someone else to do things. And you you just have spoken all of that by saying, I am a Brahmana, Shudra. So that means you felt, you really had that the internal intensity of doing things and giving. And you actually are inspiring us that we should all cultivate like that. I have not seen many Maharajas of disciples of Srila Prabhupada at this age going through with so much of zeal and enthusiasm. Probably you are empowered representative of Lord Hanuman with unlimited amount of potency. That's how we could actually see in you. So there's really no end to speak about you or about your glories. As Hanuman is called as Vachaspati, or one who can unlimitedly speak, and you've been doing the same. So we are really overwhelmed with the kind of love and affection you've shown us. And what to speak of this particular section, which is eulogizing Lord Ramachandra and his glories. So thank you very much from the bottom of our hearts. And I really loved you so much. I never have heard you before, but this whole period of time, I really am thrilled. Thank you so much for your kindness and for sharing everything.
Thank you, Ramakrishna Prabhuji. Maharaj, really, indeed, it was a very enriching experience for all of us. Not only hearing Bhagavatam from you, but also being affected by the Krishna consciousness you carry, the bhava. You actually touched our hearts with the bhava that you carry in your heart. Thank you very much, Maharaj. Indeed, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam.
Okay, all glory to Srila Prabhupada. Again, Srila Prabhupada can take the most incompetent person and make something useful out of him. So whatever good qualities you're seeing in me, I'm not kidding, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vaishnava Bhaktivedanta ki jai. So we'll see you soon. Actually, we're all stuck together now in the same movement. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I sent a picture to the chat box. I hope everyone can open. I got this in Mayapur. A monkey is hugging Lord Rama's lotus feet.
Oh my goodness. Where is that?
In the chat box.
I've got my machine is, let's see, Stop video, participants, remote control, share screen.
Can other devotees see that?
Okay.
Yes, Mother Jalangi Mata, I could see that. It is so wonderful.
Potential security issue detected. Okay, so maybe we're going to get another Chinese virus here. The coronavirus. There's so many good results from this virus. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you all very much. Oh my goodness, that's very nice. What a nice picture. Oh, so nice. Yeah. Yeah. He's sleeping. Looks like. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh, such a nice picture. Thank you very, very much. I feel like I've been rewarded in every single way by associating. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj.